Good morning, and welcome to Middle Earth Readings. I am your host, Maggie Rose Cunningham, bringing you insight, inspiration as to the energies of the planets moving through the runic wheel at the moment, what they can offer to us. And for those of you who are joining me live, please do share your rune of the week, and we will look at what does that rune bring for you, and anything that means that it will work, not work with, how the positions of the planets also help to influence the way that you can work with it, and it's going to be manifesting for you. So we have just, it's not even a proper transit, I would say, really, coming through this week. It's a very quiet week. But what I'm going to be diving into is Hela's chariot, the equivalent of Pluto, moving into retrograde. And I've been looking at retrograde motion in some depth at the moment. So I'm working with my first cohort of Birth Rune Soul Journey clients, a lovely cohort of people who've come together to work with me on really deepening into, getting into the deepest possible relationship that they can with their birth runes. And I've been working on a piece on retrograde energy. And it really made me think into, what's happening at the moment. Why is it that, certainly I've experienced some really sort of choppy energy at the moment. And I know that there's other sort of retrograde stuff going on that can help to explain this. And, we all know about Mercury going retrograde, and there would be Odin's chariot going retrograde. And certainly within the runic system, when we see Odin's chariot going into retrograde, depending on the rune, that it's in, that the chariot is in, it can feel anything from like really, really annoying to things are just a bit slow and I have to take it easy and I can't rely on technology and sort of things that relate to innovation and ideas and processes and order, or working together in complex ways that they won't necessarily work. And if you think about Odin as a deity, that although he is the sovereign deity, very different to Mercury in the Roman or Hermes in the Greek, he's the sovereign deity. He does have this energy of, moving forward, communications. He's a traveller, he's a wanderer. He has the sort of broad-brimmed hat that Mercury and Hermes are said to have as well. So they do have some similarities. But when we work with the runes and we look at the deities as well, bearing in mind that Odin is also, the creator, or at least the finder of the runes, he is affected differently when we look at different runes. So, for example, when Odin's chariot is in Iwaz, the rune of the world tree, it is very resonant with the story of Odin going to the world tree and hanging upon the world tree and waiting to discover the runes. And so different retrograde periods can affect us in very different ways, as long as we work with the energy, with the cycle in the moment, and we say, okay, what does this mean for me right now? So I've talked about Odin retrograde, but we're looking at Hela's chariot in retrograde. And what became really apparent to me, actually, in looking at Hela's chariot in retrograde, goes into retrograde about once a year. So it's about 40% of the time retrograde. So we need to get used to it. It's not something that we can go, soon this retrograde energy will be over. But in feeling into Hela's chariot in Perthrow, which is where it is now, it went into there in 2020, it's going to be up until 2029 that it stays in Hela's chariot in Perthrow. And so it's bringing karma, essentially. No, I know that's a different tradition, but it is karma on the scale of, on humanity's scale, bringing up all of the consequences of stuff that we haven't dealt with, stuff that we've done. It's just basically just bringing them up to the surface, if you imagine the world of weird. And all this flotsam and jetsam and stuff that we've been pushing down and going, it doesn't really matter, and the planet will be okay, and it doesn't matter if there's a war over there because that's not really near to us. Stopping that from being a viable path for us and saying, no, you have to deal with this. So that's the bigger picture for Perthrow, Hela's chariot and Perthrow. Now, we can read the retrograde in a number of different ways. We can read it as being a sort of slowing down of that influence. So it's still happening, but it's not happening quite as fast, which might feel a little bit more comfortable for us, given what Hela's chariot is there to do. It can bring in For some people, they see it as an increase in activity. You know, there's more stuff going on because, you know, she's off and she's looking further into the past. You know, this goddess of the underworld saying, look what you've done. You know, and my own experience so far from having looked at this now since 2020 and gone, you know, how does this work for us? So actually, it's the transits. It's when the planet stops being in direct motion and then starts to make the journey into retrograde motion that we feel the greatest effects, where it all starts to feel a bit weird. And that makes sense. I don't have my rune cards. That's very remiss of me. One moment so that I can show you. But if you imagine the Hela's Chariot, I've only got some normal runes. If you imagine Hela's Chariot in Perfro, so Perfro looks a little bit like a cup, let's say. It's a cup on its side. It's the only way I can describe it. I'm not going to be able to find it because my blue cards are not in their normal place. If it falls out, I will show it to you. Perfro is like the Well of Weird itself. It's like a sort of pot that is on its side. And I want you to imagine that when we move from direct motion into retrograde motion, the pot goes, and all of the stuff that's sloshing around on the inside starts to move about before the flow increases again. And so that, for me, it actually explains a lot, as well as things like we've had a very powerful new moon, we've had this conjunction of Jupiter, Thor's chariot, and Venus, Frigg's chariot. They were very, very close together as well. So this real focus on home and hearth and, you know, our land and taking responsibility, and all of those things will be coming through and have been coming through very, very strongly, and stuff just being difficult. Here we go, there's Perfro. So you can see Perfro looks a little bit like, normally it's on its side like this, but imagine that when it's been in direct motion, it's been there and it's been like pouring all of this stuff, you know, the stuff has been rising up out of the well and it's all pouring down. And then when we go into retrograde, it's turning and everything, we're getting a bit seasick now, and it's turning and then it starts to pour in the other direction. And it's actually that motion of everything going a bit giddy and wrong, and we're in a bit of a choppy seas there, is causing actually through this period, and because of the fact that Hela's Chariot is a very slow moving planet, it's not just going to be a couple of days, you know, where it starts that change. Whereas with Odin's Chariot, some people say it takes about, you know, a couple of days to a week to change its momentum. Hela's Chariot takes much longer. And so it's transitioning now, and we should start to feel that getting a little easing, just a little bit as that comes through. Technically, it transitioned yesterday, so we're resettling now. Now, what I wanted to talk about was really the retrograde motion, because of the fact that we don't have a lot of other planets. I thought, well, let's just spend a little bit of time looking at retrograde motion. Let's start that cupboard. I'll leave that one there. And just noting that. For me, when I do birth charts for people and I create their rune birth charts, I don't mark retrograde motion on birth charts, because I haven't found that in terms of the way that the planet was expressing its energy at the time, that is actually impacted within the person's birth runes. You know, so it affects the energy of the moment because of the motion, the perceived motion of the planet and where it's going. Like seasickness, but because the runes are a snapshot, you know, that the Nornir then come and they weave your birth runes in, you know, imagine the birthing space, and they're there, they've come, you know, the fates have come, and they read the stars, and then they weave that into your soul tapestry, and they capture the song of the planets at the moment that you were born. They're not going to be like, oh, well, we're going to put that retrograde motion in there because that, you know, we want that sort of choppy, weird energy as well. You know, they're just not thinking about it in that way. So I don't include it in birth charts, but it is useful for us to know in terms of the current moment and where we are. And I know that some people in other astrological systems, they use retrograde and they read people's charts in that way. But there is also a huge amount of information in your birth runes already for you to work with. So we tend to work with retrograde energy in the current moment, but not when we're looking at birth charts. So let's have a look at what people have got for this week, bearing in mind, like I say, it's a very quiet week. I was looking at it going, really? We don't have any planetary moves, but we don't until the 9th of May. Is our next planetary movement. So enjoy this week and use it to just give yourself some space and reorient. And if you're feeling a bit vertiginous with all of the stuff that's been happening, imagine this as the waters of weird have been turmoiling and churning as Hela's chariot was making its change in motion. And now it's just finishing that off. And what we want to do is to allow ourselves to move back into calm through the course of this week. And Estelle, you start off with a perfect rune to move into that with your rune of the week, which is Isa. So the rune of ice and stillness. So when Isa's in this position, it just looks like it's just a vertical line. All of the other runes are made out of Isa. It can also, when we look at it that way, it can become the land. It can become, it's often referred to as being like the skin of ice over the waters. So this is why it's actually quite a useful rune for this period of time, because it's going to bring that calming, so that even if stuff is happening underneath, Esther, you're going to be able to use that Isa energy and feel that sense of solidity underneath you, because Isa turns, the water into the ice. So I would be working with it upright. It's great to work with it upright, and you can do the lovely meditation, the I am meditation, just imagining your body as being the Isa rune, connecting up to the stars and below, down into the earth. But you can also, you can also lie down and almost imagine it as being this bridge of ice over the tumultuous waters that provides stability and provides a platform of stillness and serenity when you need it. And that goes for anybody, if you are experiencing really sort of choppy energies, Isa can be a really nice room to move into. A word of caution: if you do a reading, you say, should I work with Isa, and it comes up as on this way, so it's, what's the word that I'm looking for, sort of inverted. It's not the other way up, because it only has positives when it's that way, but if it's lying down like that, just be aware you'll want to look for contextual runes around you, because sometimes it can be that we desperately want that solidity, and yet we're not supposed to have it, because we're supposed to be going with the natural flow of what's happening around us in the moment, and we need to experience that change and that uncertainty. So Isa can make us sort of hold on a bit too tight, and if we hold on too tight and we use it for too long, the ice cracks instead of moving with the flexibility of water. But I'm not getting that for you, Esther, I'm getting that for you. Actually, the Isa rune will be really helpful for you in using it. Suzanne, you've got the opposite to the Isa rune. You have Kinaz. So we have the torch, the flame. And I'm seeing this for you very much as being, whatever is going on around you, stuff is done that. I have the torch, I'm moving forward with it. There is a sense in which you can also be a beacon or guide for others in doing that as well. I know the way. This is the path. Is what I'm feeling there for you with Kinaz. I'm not getting so much of the like creating with your hands energy. It's much more the light that is coming through for me, Suzanne, with the Kinaz rune for you this week. And it is that sense of being a guide and recognising yourself as being a guide, both for yourself and for others as well. Chen, you've got Iwaz, so again, an excellent rune to help with this. So Pertha and Iwaz are actually next to each other in the rune row. Why can I not see my Iwaz rune? There it is. They're next to each other, and they represent the well and the tree. So here's Iwaz with the tree, and here's the well. So the well of weird sitting underneath the world tree there, with the roots of the world tree connecting down into the well, drawing up the waters into the tree. The Nornir are taking the clay from the edges of the well of weird, and they are using that water to heal the world tree from where it's been gnawed on by the great serpent Nidhogg and by the hearts, the deer that are nibbling up higher. So the world tree is always being destroyed to a certain extent. And so although we might feel as if that Perthro energy is coming You know, and it's said in the tales that the Perthra energy is this water, the waters of weird will periodically rise. You know, they rise up, and we have to take shelter within the branches of the world tree, and it can feel like devastation. You know, we have these other sacred tales, don't we, in other religions, of the floods that occur, and that those who are following the path will, will seek shelter and seek help. So it can feel like that at this time that the waters are rising, and then when they fall, they will leave everything cleansed and healed. That's part of their process. But that happens periodically. We're in one of those periods at the moment. When that's not happening, the Nornir are there, and they are smoothing the clay onto the bark of the world tree to heal it and cleanse it. So it's a reminder that we play our part in doing that, and that each of us has our own roots. So for you, Chen, with the Iwaz rune, there is that need to remember that you have your own roots and your own strength to draw on, and there is, I think, within that also a need to protect them, and to look at, how do I conserve my energy, how do I protect it, how do I ensure that whatever the equivalent for you of nidhogg, sort of gnawing on the roots. So it could be criticism, it could be doubt, it could be, the influence of others around you who are sort of saying, oh, we think you should do this, or we think you should be that. It could be just erosions of your energy that you're giving away. It's almost using that and saying, okay, my job is to preserve my Iwaz energy, to recognise that when I am rooted and grounded and I have those routines that protect me, then the rest of me is strong and stable, like the Iwaz rune. So it's looking at your roots is the real sense that I'm getting there, Chen, for you. Recognising that they are strong, but they need to be tended and guarded and protected for that to continue, so that this partnership between the waters rising and the Iwaz rune maintaining stability will carry on going. I feel as if there's something else there that I'm struggling to bring through for you, which is why I'm blurring a little bit now. So I'm just going to describe to you what I see and see if that makes sense for you, which is, I'm seeing the strong tree with its roots going down into the earth, and when it isn't cared for, its roots begin to rot. When it is cared for by the Nornir in this case, in this analogy, then it's tended and it's well. And there is something as well, I think, about moving into the sun as being quite important, almost like that drying out that's needed. So, getting outside, getting that solar energy for you as well seems to be really important too. Maybe that's what I was missing in terms of that connection, is that energy of heat that needs to go alongside sort of water there. Marie, which fits it very nicely because Marie has the rune of Suelo, the sun. So perhaps that was perhaps Marie has what Chen needs a little bit with that Suelo energy. So the Suelo rune looks like an S. Where is it in my set? Here it is. This is my little mini set here instead of my cards that I normally have. This is the first rune set I ever made for myself. Actually, it's made of holly and I really love it. So we've got the Suelo rune there, and it's it can spin quite nicely. I like these round runes because we can make it spin, and it becomes the turning wheel, the shield, golden shield. And that's what I'm getting at for you, Marie. A lot of these runes that are coming forward, they're talking about what role you need to take, or what energy do you need to bring to sort of weather this storm as things start to settle again. And so I would look for you actually at the energy centres in your body. Now the Suelo rune works particularly well for the solar plexus, which I can't actually stand on my tippy toes, so I'm going to do it over my throat centre instead. But you can imagine that this over any of your energy centres is to imagine the Suelo rune in gold, and you start to turn it over the energy centre. You don't need an actual rune, I'm just doing it for demonstrative purposes. And see that golden energy, and see it starting to spin, and it becomes the golden shield. And what it will do is anything that's stuck in that energy centre, it will draw it out, so you can actually chant the name of the rune, and you can allow whatever might be stuck in your body to be very gently drawn out by the gentle turning of the Suelo rune. And then it sends that back out into the energy of the sun. Sends it all the way to the sun, sort of where the golden flames will transform it. And then once you've done that process of drawing out anything that you don't need, you can then see the Suelo rune is starting to draw the energy back in again. but it will be lovely golden, beautiful energy, solar energy that you draw back in, and then you seal it, and you imagine that your Suella rune becomes like a shield, which is very useful for those of you who are highly sensitive, energetically aware, in large spaces. If you are prone to being a bit of an energy sponge, you can use your Suella rune as a lovely shield. Just imagine it in front of you. If you do this practice regularly, it becomes really useful, and it will stop other people's stuff from getting into your body. Interestingly, that process that I've just described, you'll notice that we had the rune going, like I was talking about the spinning rune, and that the reversing of, I put energy out and then I draw it back in. So it's always that process of renewal. When I was talking about retrograde motion, that's definitely one of the things that I think is important when in our relationship with retrograde energy, because a lot of people go, oh, the planet's going into retrograde, it's going to be awful. And sometimes it is, but a lot of the time it's just about recognising that what's needed is a gear change, and it is that the change in polarity, the change from forward motion to backward motion that can feel really weird for us. But if we allow ourselves to flow with that new motion and recognise that it serves a different purpose, just like I was saying to Marie, where sometimes the Suella rune can draw out impurities within our system, and sometimes it can draw in beautiful golden solar energy. It's all about the intention and setting that and changing your intention. The same is true of the planets, that when they are in retrograde motion, they're simply following a different function. Slightly nuanced function in terms of what they're doing. So, I was talking about Odin's chariot there, that need to slow down and rest and meander and wander and receive comes through very strongly. Whereas Odin's chariot more normally, it's not in retrograde, is out there manifesting and creating and thinking and doing and having ideas. It's just a different way in which it's operating. Felicity, you have Dargas. You've had Dargas before, haven't you? That's coming through for you quite strongly at the moment. Let's see what it has to offer for you, because I know we've been talking about using it as a gateway and being, just do the thing, be the change, take that step forward. In the context of today's Middle Earth readings, thinking about retrograde energy and transits and changing polarity, I'm going to invite you to think about the Dargas rune in a different way. So here's our Dargas rune, okay? And Dargas often says to us, it's these two sides here, which people often see as like the Mobius loop, or they see it as being like time and space collapsing into that little point in the centre where, everything becomes one and changes, and we can immediately make change. Whatever we want to do, we just step through and it's done. But what I'm going to invite you to do is to think about these two sides of the Dargas rune as being two sides of the self, or two faces of a situation, where they're looking at each other. So it's like two faces looking at each other, similar in some ways to the Elwaz rune, for those of you who've worked with the Elwaz rune before, where we have this one here, which is often seen as the horse and the rider, but it can be seen as two horses like looking at each other, or two people holding hands. It's that sort of reflection. Dargas, to me, is offering, I don't want to say self-acceptance. That sounds a little bit, there's something to, one part of me is going to accept another, and that's not what I mean. It's about recognising that we can be dual in nature. We can be, we have the shadow and the light within us at all times. It's not that the light needs to accept the shadow, which is what we often work with. It's also that the shadow needs to accept the light and say, you might not be as bad as I thought you were. Intellect and intuition, we're able to have those two things at the same time. It's not that the intellect needs to just accept, intuition, I suppose I could use you sometime. It's also intuition sometimes saying, actually, what happens when we work in partnership. And the Dargas rune is simply saying, in any given moment, allow yourself to be present to all of the different responses that you might be feeling in that moment, not analysing them, not judging them, not thinking one is right, one is wrong, one is this and one is that. Literally just saying, that's okay. That's me, and that's where I am at this moment in time. And my job isn't to fix or change that, or to choose one over the other at this point. It is simply to recognise that those different forces exist within me, and to help them see each other. is the sense that I'm getting. So I hope that's helpful for you, Felicity. It's quite, what's the word? Abstract. But enjoy your dog as two faces looking at each other. Shelley, hi Shelley, you've got manas. So again, interesting that we're getting some shapes that are like synergistic shapes that we're getting together. Where's my manas rune? So you can see the manas rune here has got the Ewaz rune, this sort of partnership, and it's got the Dargaz rune within it as well. It combines these two runes within it, and it's the rune of sovereignty and autonomy, confidence, power, maturity, integration. So I was talking to Felicity about like recognizing, Dargaz is saying, recognizing all of the different parts of the self and sort of being, okay with that. The function of manas is to be able to, it is that decision-making part. So whereas Dargaz is perceiving, I am perceiving and I'm being fully present in the moment, manas is more about integrating and then deciding. So listening to all the arguments, listening to all of the thoughts, the memories, the experiences, the feelings, and then deciding and allowing regrets, guilt, anything like that to just sort of say, but my job is to decide. So whereas Felicity's job is simply to recognize, the manas rune is saying the job is to decide. And that's your most powerful place, is in making the decisions. So you literally imagine yourself sort of holding court within the space and saying, do I have all of the information I need to make this decision? If not, where do I get this information? What does my instinct tell me? What does my and what do my emotions tell me? What do my thoughts tell me? And seeing them almost as like a table of advisors. And there is a part of you that decides. Trust that part of you. And know that you made the best possible decision in that moment, which is why when we are truly standing in our sovereignty, guilt in particular, guilt and shame and regret and all of those emotions that make us think that, the next things, the consequences of whatever happened, were our fault. If we've taken the best possible decision we can take in the moment, then guilt has no place, because, we're not the same person in the next moment. So it's just allowing that sovereignty to shine through is what I'm getting for you, Shelley. To say that's my job this week, is to make decisions and to be okay with them and trust myself. Erica, you have got Rado. So we've got the rune of movement and the road and rhythm here. Lovely, there we go. Rado rune there. And let me see, we're going back into this, we were talking about sort of moving backwards and forwards and I think for you, Erica, with the Rado rune, we've got this sense of there can be a tendency towards indecisiveness at the moment because of the way in which, this will come up and then this will come up and then it'll be like, oh, this has gone wrong now and I wasn't expecting that, and sort of unanticipated difficulties. And I was talking about, with Felicity about it just being okay, and I accept everything that comes in my mind and what's happening like in this moment. And with Shelley I was saying, and then you decide. For you, Erica, it's the keep walking. It's the don't keep walking the road. And it's that synergy of body, the body that keeps on walking and knows, and the mind going, this is the horizon, this is the big picture horizon. So there's that sense of keeping connected to the big picture for you, Erica, in saying, these smaller steps that I'm taking now are just smaller steps. It might be that I need to change course a little bit, and yet as long as I keep my eyes on the horizon and I keep moving towards that goal, if I need to stop or pause or I need to change direction, for a short period of time, as long as I keep focused on the end goal and I keep moving forward, it doesn't matter if the steps are slow, it doesn't matter if I trip along the way, it doesn't matter if I have to sort of take a bit of a detour around this hill. Keep focusing on the horizon and keep just taking the next step, one foot in front of the other, is what's important there for you, Erica. Darren, you've got Feu, so let me see if I can show that to people so we can all do our lovely Feu energy here. Now, Feyre is one of those runes that we always want to have access to our Feyre energy. It's that life force energy. It's flowing through us. It's fabulous and wonderful. And the need to tend to its energy and the way that it's flowing for us is very important because it's a very responsive rune. It is very quick to change its direction and to pull in places that were unexpected, or to get blocked or to get stuck, because it's that life force energy. It's the energy of abundance and wealth that comes through. And so tending to it and making sure that it has outlets and that you are always replenishing yourself becomes very important at this time. What I'm seeing for you, and again, Darren, I'm going to describe what I'm seeing and we'll see where we go from there, is Feyre energy is often used, and sort of a nice analogy for it is sap in a tree. You can think about it as blood running through our bodies for us, that life force that's within us. For trees, it is it's the sap, the life force of the sap, which is one of the reasons why amber is one of those really powerful and highly sought after, highly prized within Viking jewellery, Anglo-Saxon jewellery. The fact that it's got, you can rub it and it has that little bit of a sort of electricity in it. It tells you, it's like, wow, it's like magic. It's still got this sort of energetic charge within it, this sort of magical charge within it. And there's something here about remembering that every single one of your ancestors had the ability to draw on that Feyre energy to the extent that they were able to, procreate and go on to have another child and another child and another child. So there are times when we can feel as if, I don't know how to do this. It's all feeling a bit hard. What is this life force? What is this, attracting wealth to myself, attracting abundance to myself? It's never going to come. We can feel quite disheartened from that, and that's actually, that's a little bit toxic to Feyre energy in itself, because we start to create these sort of cold spaces of doubt within our energy systems. Feyre energy doesn't like that. It won't go there. And so we could create a little bit of a cycle. And so remembering that your own genetic code holds within it the programming that will allow you to gather abundant life force and energy into yourself is a really useful starting point in attracting Feyre energy in. I wish I could do a whole little masterclass on Feyre energy before. I did do a video a while back, I think some of you will remember it, about sort of luck making and wealth making with Feyre energy. Perhaps that's something for a repeat sometimes. Pop in the chat box if that's something that will be interesting for people. But certainly that starting point of saying, every single one of my cells is programmed to be able to do this. Excuse me one moment. Because if it wasn't, I wouldn't be here. Because my ancestors wouldn't have procreated and thrived and so on and so forth. So it's in you and it's there. And it's just a question of trusting that. So if you can't trust yourself at the moment, trust your genetic code. Know that ability to draw in that wealth, abundant energy is there at a cellular level, and just sit with that. And then again, as I said, you can work with the Feyre energy. You can do some lovely wealth magics with Feyre that I wish we had time for today, but we did not today. Esther, thank you, Maggie. After radio last week, a calmer week with Issa is very welcomed. Yes. Erica is going on with her radio room, but you're in a place of calm right now, Esther, so that's lovely. Suzanne, thank you so much. I felt really seasick on Saturday for no reason, had to lay down. Yeah, and I was just like, what is this? And I went, oh, you know what, I think I just need to widen out my recognition of how particularly those larger planets that take years, in one room, and the course, when they make those sort of course corrections as we perceive them in the sky, that is going to be choppy for us, particularly when you have rooms like Perth Road that are all about sort of the water and the karma and the flow and the stuff like that. So it makes a lot of sense. Wish I'd spotted it earlier. Chen, thank you, Maggie. I've been feeling down like roots without seeing any sun. Yeah, so that seeing of the sun is important. Rebecca, you've got Ella. So we've been talking about partnership. That sense of collaboration. It's almost about that sense that sometimes in order to be energized and to move in flow, we need like the other to inspire us or motivate us in some way. That need for intimacy and connection at a one-to-one level comes through really strongly with the Ewas rune. And it is reminding me that while Ewas can represent deep communion with the self, self between the mind and the body, or the conscious and the subconscious, between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind through dreams, in particular, comes through with Ewas. For you, what I'm getting, sorry, I've got another frog in my throat, is connection with other people. It could be animals as well, but with other people too. Recognizing that as a place that inspires and empowers and brings you more, brings more energy in, and increases sensitivity as well, comes through to me with that. So, yeah, very delicate, sensitive connection is what I'm feeling through the Ewas rune for you today, Rebecca. Felicity says, thank you, really timely. Marissa, thank you, very helpful. Shelley, oh my, thank you, this is wonderful insights. I'm glad. It's actually felt a bit choppy for me today. I've been a bit like, oh, sometimes I just have to give people pictures and hope that they're okay. So I'm glad that worked for you. And Erica says, keeping the bigger picture in mind and taking small conscious steps while moving through. Thank you. That is great. I'm so pleased that that has been positive and helpful for so many people. Now, I know that a lot of people who have joined me here in the live, that you're already doing your birth runes. Some of you are very, very deep level. I know that we've got a couple of you here who are on the Birth Rune Soul Journey program. Yeah, we do actually, more than two. If you haven't already started work with your birth runes, just to say that my recommended first step for you is to get your birth runes identified. So you can do that. You can purchase via the Maggie and Rose website in our shop your birth runes report. And what you get with your birth runes report is you'll start off, you'll get a lovely little table which gives you your 14 birth runes, and for 13 of them it also gives you the hall, so the hall of the gods that that the chariot was in at the time of your birth, and the hearth, so the hearth of the AC mural, and they nuance, they give you some subtle additions. Then you have it's about 25 pages now, the full report now. So you have got an in-depth discussion for you of each of your birth runes. So for your hero makers, you get a piece all about your birth rune, you get a piece about your hall, you get a piece about your hearth, how they work together. And then we have the soul singers, so those are the outer planets, so like Mercury through to Oda's chariot through to Hela's chariot. It goes through and it says again what the hall is and what the hearth is. So you get that, and you also get our Suna's Chariot awakening package. So for those of you who have done awakening to the runes, you get a nice little PDF that tells you about the sun rune and what it means, and what it tells you about them, about you. And then you get the awakening module for that rune, as is a really lovely introduction into your birth runes, which means that you have all the information about all of your birth runes, and you have your energetic connections, so some lovely stories, power song, meditation, feeling rune in your body, all of that for your sun rune as well. So it's a really good starting place. So if you don't have that already, I would highly recommend that for you as your first step into your birth runes. I know that we've been getting quite a lot of orders through at the moment, so I felt inspired to share that package is available for you, and we really love making them as well for you and learning all about you. And so have a wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy your bank holiday for those of you who are in the UK. I look forward to seeing you next week. For those of you who are in the Half Space Inner Circle, we will be having our first class, which is our reading on Friday. For those of you who are in the Half Space itself, I'll be doing the introductory video for this month. We're working with Tia, and the theme that he has presented for us is sacrifice, which I will remind you, and we'll talk a bit more about the video, that sacrifice does not mean to lose, to destroy, to get rid of, to not have any more. It means to make sacred. So we shall see where we go with that. Enjoy, everybody, and lovely to see you all. See you all very soon.